Emma Wilson stood among the crowd of excited tourists outside Buckingham Palace. The summer sun shone brightly in the London sky. She was a simple school teacher from a small town in Ohio. After saving money for 5 years, she had finally made it to London, a dream she had since she was a little girl. Emma was different from the other tourists. While they pushed and shoved to get closer to the famous royal guards, she stayed back. She watched with real respect. These men in their bright red coats and tall black furry hats weren't just for show. They were real soldiers doing an important job. "Can you believe they don't move at all?" said a woman next to Emma. "Not even a smile." Emma nodded but didn't try to make the guards react like some other tourists did. She had read about them before her trip. The royal guards had strict rules. They could not talk, laugh, or move while on duty. Their job was to protect the palace, not entertain visitors. That morning, Emma had checked her phone as she ate breakfast at her small hotel. There was a message from her mother. Emma's heart sank as she read it. Her grandfather, Robert, had died in his sleep last night. He went peacefully. Her mother had written, "Don't cut your trip short. Dad would want you to enjoy London. He always wanted to visit but never got the chance." Emma had cried in her room for an hour. Her grandfather had been in the military for 40 years. He had told her stories about duty and honor. He was the one who had put the idea of visiting London in her head with his own dreams of seeing the changing of the guard. "I'll go for both of us, Grandpa," she had promised him before leaving. Now she stood there, her eyes red from crying, watching the guards who reminded her so much of her grandfather's stories. One guard stood just 10 feet away from her. He was young, maybe in his late 20s, with a strong jaw and perfect posture. His eyes stared straight ahead, not focusing on anything or anyone. As Emma watched him, something strange happened. For a brief moment, when no one else was looking, the guard's eyes seemed to show sadness. It was so quick that Emma thought she had imagined it. But there was something in his face that reminded her of her grandfather, a hidden pain behind a mask of strength. The crowd moved, pushing Emma closer to the guard. She noticed a small name tag. "W. Thompson," it read. Guard Thompson continued to stare ahead, not moving a muscle despite the noisy tourists around him. A little boy ran up to the guard and made faces, trying to make him laugh. The guard didn't react. The boy's mother pulled him away, saying, "Leave the poor man alone. He's working." Emma felt a connection to this guard that she couldn't explain. Maybe it was because of her grandfather, or maybe it was the hidden sadness she thought she had seen. Without really thinking about what she was doing, she moved closer. "My grandfather died this morning," she whispered, not expecting the guard to respond or even hear her. "He was a soldier too. He would have loved to see you standing here." For just a split second, the guard's eyes moved to meet hers. In that brief moment, Emma saw understanding and maybe even sympathy. Then his eyes were straight ahead again, his face showing nothing. Emma didn't know that Guard William Thompson had also received bad news that morning. She didn't know that under his perfect uniform and still face, his heart was breaking too. And she had no idea that what she would do next would change both their lives and touch the hearts of millions around the world. That same morning, Guard William Thompson had woken up at 4:30 a.m. His phone had buzzed with a message from his sister Sarah's husband. Sarah had gone into early labor with their first child. There were problems, and both Sarah and the baby were in danger. William had almost called in sick. His sister needed him, but his family had served in the Royal Guards for 3 generations. His father had taught him that duty comes first, no matter what. So William put on his uniform, standing tall and proud despite the worry in his heart. "I'll visit as soon as my shift ends," he had texted back. "Tell Sarah I'm thinking of her." Now, as the hot sun beat down on his heavy uniform, William stood perfectly still. His body was at the palace, but his mind was at the hospital with Sarah. Still, not a single tourist could tell what he was feeling. That was part of being a royal guard, hiding your feelings, no matter what. The crowd of tourists grew larger as the morning went on. William was used to them taking photos, pointing, and sometimes trying to make him laugh or move. He had learned to tune them out, to become almost like a statue. Then he noticed a woman with sad eyes watching him. Most tourists looked excited or curious, but this woman seemed different. When she whispered about her grandfather dying, William felt a connection. He couldn't respond. The rules were very clear about that. But for just a moment, he let his eyes meet hers, showing that he had heard her. More tourists pushed forward, taking selfies and videos. A group of teenagers made silly faces, trying to break his focus. An older man explained to his grandchildren how the guards were trained to never react, no matter what happened around them. Emma stayed close by. Something about this guard made her feel less alone in her grief. Maybe it was just that he had listened, even if he couldn't respond. The morning grew hotter. Guards were trained to stand for hours without moving, even in bad weather. But today was especially difficult for William. Worry about his sister mixed with the heat, making sweat run down his back under the heavy red coat. Emma noticed a change in the guard's face. His skin had become very pale. Though his expression didn't change, she could tell something was wrong. Years of teaching had made her good at noticing when someone was in distress, even when they tried to hide it. She moved closer, concerned. "Are you okay?" she whispered. William couldn't answer. It was against every rule. But the truth was, he wasn't okay. The heat, the worry, and the lack of sleep were all catching up to him. Black spots began to dance in his vision. Still, he remained standing tall, facing forward, his rifle held perfectly in position. Emma saw his hands trembling slightly. No one else noticed this tiny break in his perfect stance. She looked around. The other tourists were busy taking photos and weren't paying attention to the guard's condition. "You need water," Emma said quietly, pulling a small bottle from her bag. William couldn't take it. He couldn't move, couldn't speak. Those were the rules. Then Emma did something that tourists were never, ever supposed to do. Something that could get her in serious trouble, maybe even arrested. She stepped past the red rope that kept tourists away from the guards. Several people gasped. Someone started filming with their phone. "She's going to touch the guard," a man said loudly. Guards were trained for this. They were supposed to shout, "Make way for the Queen's Guard." If someone got too close, they could even point their rifles if they felt threatened. But William didn't shout or move his rifle. He couldn't, because at that exact moment, as Emma stepped toward him with water and concern in her eyes, William Thompson, Royal Guard and proud soldier, began to sway on his feet. He was about to faint, right there on duty, in front of hundreds of watching tourists. William felt the world spinning around him. The faces of tourists blurred together as he fought to stay standing. In his 27 years of life and 5 years as a Royal Guard, he had never failed in his duty. But today, with the heat and his worry for Sarah, his body was giving up. Emma saw the guard sway slightly. No one else seemed to notice, but she could tell he was about to fall. Without thinking about the rules or the consequences, she rushed forward. "Stop! You can't go there," shouted a security officer, but Emma was already at William's side. Just as William's knees began to buckle, Emma reached him. She didn't plan what happened next. She simply did what came naturally when someone was in trouble. She wrapped her arms around him in what looked like a hug, but was really her attempt to keep him from falling. The crowd gasped. Dozens of phones were now recording. Hugging the Royal Guard was strictly forbidden. It was a serious breach of protocol. "Oh my God, she's hugging him," someone shouted. "She's going to get arrested," said another voice. But Emma didn't care. She could feel the guard trembling, fighting to stay conscious. "It's okay," she whispered. "I've got you." For 3 long seconds, William and Emma stood frozen in this unexpected embrace. The guard's body was rigid, still trying to maintain his position despite his dizziness. Then something even more surprising happened. William Thompson, trained to never break character while on duty, did the unthinkable. His right arm moved slightly from his side, and for just a moment, he returned Emma's hug. It was such a small movement that many in the crowd weren't even sure they saw it. But those watching closely noticed this tiny break in protocol, this moment of pure humanity. Security officers were now pushing through the crowd to reach them. Emma knew she had to step back before they arrived. She let go of William, relieved to see that he was steadier on his feet now. The brief rest and her support had helped him regain his balance. "My sister," William whispered, so quietly that only Emma could hear. "Hospital." Emma understood immediately. This man was dealing with his own family emergency, just like she was. Before the security officers could reach them, she quickly pulled her water bottle from her bag and placed it near his feet. Then she stepped back behind the rope. The security officers arrived, looking confused. They had expected to find a troublemaker, but instead saw a guard standing perfectly at attention, though a bit pale, and a woman who was now back in the proper tourist area. "Miss, did you cross the line?" one officer asked Emma sternly. Before she could answer, an older woman in the crowd spoke up. The guard was about to faint in this heat. She was helping him. "You should be thanking her." Several other tourists nodded in agreement. The security officers looked at each other, unsure what to do. One of them picked up the water bottle Emma had left and discreetly placed it where William could reach it during the changing of the guard. Emma backed further into the crowd, her heart racing. She couldn't believe what she had done. She had broken the rules, touched a royal guard, and even more incredibly, he had responded. Now she worried he might get in trouble because of her. What Emma didn't know was that their brief encounter had been captured perfectly on video. Even as she stood there wondering if she should leave before she got arrested, the clip was already being uploaded to social media. Far away at London's Royal Hospital, Sarah Thompson's husband was scrolling through his phone, trying to distract himself from worry, when a notification popped up. A friend had sent him a video with the message, "Isn't this your brother-in-law?" As he clicked play, he had no idea that this video would soon spread around the world, touching millions of hearts and changing many lives, especially William's and Emma's. At the hospital, Mark Thompson stared at his phone in surprise. There was his brother-in-law, William, standing guard at Buckingham Palace, and a woman was hugging him. Even more shocking was that William seemed to be hugging her back. "Sarah, you have to see this," Mark said to his wife, who was resting in the hospital bed. After a difficult night, both Sarah and her baby girl were finally stable. Sarah watched the video with wide eyes. "Will would never break protocol like that," she whispered. "Something must be wrong." The video kept playing. Sarah could see how pale her brother looked, how the woman seemed to be holding him up rather than just hugging him for a photo. She was helping him, Sarah realized. He was about to faint. Meanwhile, back at Buckingham Palace, the changing of the guard was about to happen. This ceremony, where one group of guards is replaced by another, was a favorite sight for tourists. It meant William would soon be able to leave his post. Emma had stayed in the crowd, feeling both embarrassed and worried. Would the guard get in trouble because of her? She decided to wait until the ceremony ended so she could apologize to him if possible. As the new guards marched in, William and the others prepared to march out. Emma noticed he looked better after drinking some water, but still not completely well. What Emma didn't know was that William's commanding officer, Captain James Harris, had already seen the viral video. It had spread quickly through social media and was now being shown on news websites. Captain Harris watched William carefully during the changing ceremony. He noticed the guard was struggling but still performing his duties perfectly. Harris had known William's father and grandfather, both excellent guards themselves. He also knew about Sarah's situation at the hospital. When the ceremony ended and the guards marched inside the palace grounds, Captain Harris approached William. "Thompson," Harris said firmly, "in my office." Now, William's heart sank. He knew what this was about. Breaking protocol was a serious offense for a royal guard. He could be suspended or even removed from his position. Emma saw the stern-looking officer talking to William as they walked away. She felt terrible. She had only wanted to help, but now she might have cost this man his job. In Captain Harris's office, William stood at attention, his back straight and his eyes forward. "At ease, Thompson," Harris said. "I've seen the video." "Sir, I apologize for my failure. I accept any punishment," William said formally. Captain Harris studied the young guard for a moment. "Tell me what happened." William explained about his sister, about feeling faint in the heat, and about the tourist who had helped him. "You returned her hug," Harris pointed out. "That's a clear breach of protocol." "Yes, sir. I have no excuse." Captain Harris sighed and took out his phone. "The video has over 1 million views already. The press is calling." William felt sick. His career was over. What would his father say? But then Harris did something unexpected. He smiled slightly. "Do you know what they're saying about the video? They're calling it the human side of the Royal Guard. The palace has received thousands of positive messages." William blinked in surprise. "The royal family values tradition and protocol," Harris continued. "But they also value compassion. That tourist showed compassion to you, and you responded as a human being, not just as a guard." Harris put his phone away. "Your sister needs you. You're on family leave starting now. 3 days." "Sir," William couldn't believe what he was hearing. "Sometimes, Thompson, showing our humanity is as important as showing our discipline. Now go see your sister and your new niece." Outside the palace, Emma sat on a bench, still upset about what had happened. Her phone kept buzzing with messages and notifications. The video had gone viral, and her friends back in Ohio had recognized her. She didn't know that inside the palace, instead of being punished, William was being given permission to go to the hospital. And she had no idea that their brief encounter was touching hearts around the world. Emma sat on a park bench near the palace, scrolling through her phone in shock. The video of her hugging the royal guard was everywhere. News websites had picked up the story. People were sharing it with comments like, "So sweet," and "This made me cry." Her simple act of helping someone had touched people's hearts around the world. Her phone rang. It was her mother calling from Ohio. "Emma, you're on the news here," her mother said excitedly. "They're showing you hugging that guard at the palace." "Mom, I was just trying to help him," Emma explained. "He looked like he was going to faint." "Well, everyone loves it. Your grandfather would have been so proud." Emma felt tears in her eyes at the mention of her grandfather. "I miss him, Mom." "I know, sweetie. He would have loved this story. A soldier helping another soldier's family member. That's the kind of thing he believed in." After hanging up, Emma decided to visit a small cafe to collect her thoughts. As she sipped her tea, a British woman at the next table leaned over. "Excuse me, but aren't you the American who hugged the royal guard today?" she asked kindly. Emma nodded, feeling embarrassed. "I just wanted to say, that was a lovely thing you did," the woman said. "My husband was a royal guard many years ago. They stand for hours in all weather. It's not easy." "I was worried he might get in trouble because of me," Emma admitted. "Oh, I doubt that," the woman said. "The royal family understands compassion. I think you showed the human side of both tourists and guards today." Meanwhile, William had changed out of his uniform and was in a taxi heading to the hospital. His phone wouldn't stop buzzing with messages from friends who had seen the video. Some teased him good-naturedly about breaking his famous self-control. Others praised him for showing humanity while on duty. William ignored the messages. He could only think about Sarah and her baby. When he arrived at the hospital, he hurried to her room. Sarah was sitting up in bed, looking tired but happy. In her arms was a tiny bundle wrapped in a pink blanket. "Will," she said when she saw him, "come meet your niece." William approached the bed and looked down at the tiny face of his newborn niece. She had a small pink cap on her head and was sleeping peacefully. "She's beautiful," he whispered. "Is she okay? Are you okay?" "We're both fine now," Sarah assured him. "It was touch and go for a while, but she's a fighter." She smiled at her brother. Just like her uncle who stands guard at Buckingham Palace even when he's worried sick. Mark stood up and patted William on the shoulder. We saw the video, by the way. Seems like you've become famous for something other than standing perfectly still. That woman, Sarah said softly. She could tell you needed help when no one else noticed. If I ever meet her, I want to thank her. William looked down at his tiny niece again. What's her name? Sarah and Mark exchanged a glance. We were thinking of naming her Emma, Sarah said. We liked the name already, but after seeing that woman help you today, it just feels right. William felt a lump in his throat. Emma, he repeated. It's a perfect name. As William held his niece for the first time, a nurse came into the room. You've got quite a fan club out there, she told William with a smile. The video of you and that tourist is playing on the TV in the waiting room. Everyone's talking about it. William shook his head in disbelief. I never meant to break protocol. I was just human for a moment. And that's exactly why people love it, the nurse said. In a world where we're all trying to follow the rules and keep up appearances, you two showed that sometimes it's okay to just be human. Across London, in her small hotel room, Emma was writing a letter to her mother about everything that had happened that day. She had no idea that the guard she had helped was now holding a newborn baby named after her, or that their brief moment of connection was still spreading across the internet, bringing smiles and even tears to millions of people around the world. The next morning, Emma woke up to hundreds of new notifications on her phone. News channels wanted to interview her. Strangers sent messages thanking her for her kindness. Even a few companies had reached out, asking if she would promote their products. Emma turned off her phone. She hadn't helped the guard to become famous. She had just done what anyone would do when they saw someone in need. After a simple breakfast, Emma decided to continue with her planned trip to the British Museum. She needed some time away from all the attention. But as she walked through the museum, looking at ancient artifacts, she kept thinking about the guard. Was he okay? Had he gotten in trouble? She wished there was a way to find out. At that same moment, William was sitting beside his sister's hospital bed. Baby Emma was sleeping in a clear bassinet nearby. Sarah was looking much better today, with color back in her cheeks. Have you seen the newspapers? Sarah asked, holding up a copy of the London Times. On the front page was a photo of William and Emma during their brief hug, with the headline, Humanity Before Protocol, the hug that touched the world. William groaned. I just want this to blow over. I'm a guard, not a celebrity. Well, you're both now. Sarah laughed. The palace has even released a statement. What? William grabbed the newspaper and read the small article. The official statement from Buckingham Palace said, while we maintain strict protocols for the protection of our guards and the public, we also recognize the compassion shown by both Guard Thompson and the American visitor. Their moment of humanity reflects the values of kindness that the royal family supports. William couldn't believe it. Instead of being punished, his actions were being praised by the palace itself. Mark walked in with coffee for everyone. You know what's really amazing about this whole thing? He said, that video has raised over £50,000 for a charity that supports military families. How? William asked, confused. Some website shared your story and started a fundraiser alongside it. People are donating like crazy. They're calling it the Human Guard Fund. William sat back, stunned. He had always wanted to make a difference in the world, but he never expected it would happen like this. At the British Museum, Emma was trying to focus on the exhibits, but her mind kept wandering. She checked her phone briefly and saw a news update about a charity fundraiser connected to her viral video. She smiled for the first time since her grandfather died. Maybe something good would come from all this attention after all. As she moved to the next exhibit, a museum employee approached her. Excuse me, Miss Wilson, he said politely. Emma was surprised he knew her name. Yes. There's a phone call for you at the information desk. The caller says it's important. Confused, Emma followed the employee to the desk and took the phone. "Hello," she said. "Is this Emma Wilson?" asked a woman's voice with a British accent. "Yes, this is Emma. My name is Sarah Thompson. I believe you met my brother William yesterday at Buckingham Palace." Emma's heart skipped a beat. "Is he okay? I've been worried about him." "He's perfectly fine, thanks to you," Sarah said warmly. "I'm calling because, well, I just had a baby girl yesterday, and we named her Emma. After you." Emma gasped. "You named your baby after me? But you don't even know me." "I know you helped my brother when he needed it most. You showed kindness to a stranger. That's the kind of person I want my daughter to be." Tears filled Emma's eyes. "I don't know what to say." "Would you like to meet her?" Sarah asked. "And my brother properly, without him standing at attention. He'd like to thank you in person." Emma hesitated only for a moment. "I'd love to." "Wonderful. We're at London Royal Hospital. William can meet you in the lobby at 2 p.m., if that works for you." After hanging up, Emma stood in the middle of the museum, her mind spinning. The guard, William, was okay. His sister had had a baby and named it after her. And now she was going to meet them all. Her grandfather had always told her that small acts of kindness could change the world. She had never truly believed it until now. Emma arrived at London Royal Hospital just before 2 p.m. Her heart beat fast as she walked through the main doors. She had only seen William in his full guard uniform, standing stiff and formal. What would he be like as a normal person? She waited in the lobby, holding a small teddy bear she had bought for baby Emma. A few minutes later, a tall man in simple jeans and a blue sweater walked toward her. Without the tall black hat and red coat, William looked younger and more approachable, but Emma recognized his strong jaw and kind eyes immediately. "Miss Wilson," he said, extending his hand. "Just Emma, please," she replied, shaking his hand. "It's nice to meet you properly, William." He smiled, and Emma noticed how it transformed his serious face. "Thank you for coming. My sister is very excited to meet you." As they walked through the hospital hallways, William spoke quietly. "I want to thank you for what you did yesterday. You risked getting in trouble to help a stranger." Emma shook her head. "I just did what anyone would do. I was more worried that I got you in trouble." "Quite the opposite," William laughed. "I've been given 3 days of family leave, and the palace actually praised our moment of humanity, as they called it. I heard about the charity fund too," Emma said. "My grandfather would have loved that. He always believed in helping military families." William looked at her with interest. "Your grandfather was in the military?" "Yes," Emma said, feeling the familiar sadness. "He died the morning of, well, the same day I met you. I had just found out when I visited the palace." William stopped walking and turned to face her. "I had no idea. I'm so sorry for your loss." "And I had no idea about your sister," Emma said. "We were both dealing with family emergencies that day." William nodded. "Perhaps that's why you noticed I was in trouble when no one else did. You were already looking with eyes of compassion." They reached Sarah's room. Inside, Sarah was sitting up in bed, holding baby Emma. Mark sat nearby, making funny faces at the baby. "Sarah, this is Emma Wilson," William said. Sarah looked up with a warm smile. The famous hugger. "Come in, please." Emma walked in shyly and held out the teddy bear. "I brought this for little Emma." "It's perfect," Sarah said, taking the gift. "Would you like to hold her?" Before Emma could answer, Sarah was already holding out the baby. Carefully, Emma took the tiny bundle in her arms. The baby had William's blue eyes and a small tuft of dark hair. "She's beautiful," Emma whispered. "We watched the video of you helping Will at least 20 times, Mark said. When Sarah was having a hard time during labor, the doctors showed her that video to cheer her up. They said, 'Look at your brother standing strong, and look at this kind stranger helping him. You're both as strong as they are.'" The video actually helped me get through it, Sarah added. Knowing Will was okay, seeing that there are kind people in the world like you, it gave me strength. Emma felt tears in her eyes as she looked down at the sleeping baby. My grandfather used to say that we're all connected, even strangers. He said we should always help others because someday someone might help us when we need it most. William pulled a chair up for Emma to sit down. Tell us about your grandfather, he said gently. As Emma sat holding baby Emma, she began to share stories about her grandfather, his years in the military, his dream of visiting London, his belief in kindness and duty. For the first time since getting the news of his death, talking about him brought more smiles than tears. Outside the hospital room, nurses and visitors walked past, unaware that inside, two strangers whose brief meeting had touched millions were now becoming friends. The viral video had connected them for a moment, but their shared values and experiences were connecting them for much longer. A reporter who had tracked Emma to the hospital stood outside, ready to get an exclusive interview. But when she peeked through the window and saw the group talking and laughing together, she quietly put away her notebook and walked away. Some moments were too special to interrupt. The next day, Emma had only 2 days left in London before her flight back to Ohio. She had planned to visit the Tower of London, but instead, she found herself returning to the hospital to visit Sarah, Mark, and baby Emma. William met her in the lobby again, this time with coffee for both of them. Sarah and the baby get to go home today, he told her with a smile. They're just waiting for the final papers. As they walked to Sarah's room, William seemed nervous. I have a question for you, he said finally. The Human Guard Fund has raised over £100,000 now. They want to have a small ceremony to present the check to the military families charity. They've asked if we would both attend. Emma stopped walking. A ceremony, with people watching, and cameras. William nodded. I understand if you don't want to. I'm not comfortable with attention either. That's why I like being a guard. People look at the uniform, not at me. Emma thought about it. Her grandfather would have loved the idea of helping military families. When is it? Tomorrow afternoon. I know it's short notice. I'll do it, Emma said, for the families, and for my grandfather. William looked relieved. Thank you. I didn't want to do it alone. In Sarah's room, baby Emma was dressed in a tiny pink outfit, ready to go home. Sarah smiled when she saw Emma. Our hero returns, she said warmly. Will you visit us again before you leave London? Actually, William said, Emma has agreed to attend the charity ceremony with me tomorrow. Wonderful. Sarah clapped her hands. We'll be there too, to support you both. As they chatted, Emma's phone rang. It was her mother calling from Ohio again. Emma, you won't believe this, her mother said excitedly. Your school principal called. The students saw your video and started their own fundraiser for veterans in honor of Grandpa. They've raised over $5,000 already. Emma was speechless. Her third-grade students, most just 8 or 9 years old, had been inspired by her simple act of kindness. That's amazing, Mom, she finally managed to say. Tell them I'm so proud of them. After ending the call, Emma shared the news with William and his family. It seems our little moment has started something much bigger than us, she said. That's how kindness works, Mark said, cradling his daughter. It spreads. Later, William walked Emma back to the hospital entrance. Would you like to have dinner tonight? He asked. I know a quiet restaurant where no one will bother us about the video. I'd like to hear more about your grandfather and your students. Emma smiled. I'd like that very much. The next afternoon, Emma and William stood nervously behind a curtain at a small event space. On the other side, reporters and photographers waited, along with representatives from the military charity and the fundraising website. I never thought standing still would be harder than guard duty, William whispered, tugging at his tie. He was in a suit rather than his guard uniform. Emma wore a simple blue dress. Just pretend you're on duty at the palace. Stand straight, don't smile. Don't move." William laughed. "Is that how you see me?" "It's how everyone saw you, until a certain American tourist made you break character," Emma teased. The event organizer approached them. "Ready? We'll present the check. You'll both say a few words, and then we'll take some photos." Emma felt panic rising. A speech. No one said anything about a speech. William took her hand and squeezed it gently. "Just speak from your heart. Tell them about your grandfather. I'll be right beside you." As they stepped onto the small stage, cameras flashed. Emma saw Sarah and Mark in the audience, baby Emma sleeping in a carrier. She saw the charity representatives, mostly veterans and family members of active military personnel. They reminded her of her grandfather. William stepped to the microphone first. His speech was short but heartfelt. He talked about duty and humanity, and how Emma had shown him that sometimes the most important duty was to be human. Then it was Emma's turn. She took a deep breath, thought of her grandfather, and began to speak. What neither Emma nor William knew was that among the people watching the live stream of the ceremony back in Ohio was Emma's entire school. Her students cheered as their teacher appeared on screen, standing tall and brave beside the royal guard whose life she had touched. 1 year later, Emma stood outside Buckingham Palace again. The spring air was cool, and tourists gathered, as they always did, to watch the royal guards. Emma smiled as she spotted a familiar figure in a red coat and tall black hat, standing perfectly still. William had returned to his guard duties after his leave. Their friendship had continued through video calls and messages after Emma returned to Ohio. When Emma mentioned she was planning to visit London again during her school's spring break, William had suggested they meet where their story began. As Emma watched, a young girl approached William and made funny faces, trying to make him smile. William remained perfectly still, just as he was trained to do. The girl's mother pulled her away gently, saying, "They're not allowed to react, honey." Emma remembered that day a year ago, when she had broken all the rules by hugging a royal guard. So much had changed since then. After the charity ceremony, their story had inspired similar fundraisers around the world. The Human Guard Fund had grown into a major charity supporting military families in several countries. Emma's students had created a kindness project at their school that had spread to other schools across Ohio. Emma checked her watch. William would be relieved from his post soon during the changing of the guard. They had plans to visit Sarah, Mark, and little Emma, who was now a walking, talking 1-year-old. As she waited, Emma felt someone tap her shoulder. She turned to see an elderly couple smiling at her. "Excuse me," the woman said. "Aren't you the American teacher who hugged the guard last year?" Emma nodded, still surprised that people recognized her. "We just wanted to thank you," the man said. "Your story inspired our grandson. He was having a hard time in the army, thinking about quitting. But after seeing your video and hearing about the charity, he found his purpose again. He's helping veterans now." "That's wonderful," Emma said sincerely. "My grandfather was in the military too. He would be so happy to hear that." After the couple moved on, Emma found a quiet bench to sit on. She took out a small, worn photograph of her grandfather in his military uniform. "Can you believe it, Grandpa?" she whispered. "All of this happened because I missed you that day." The changing of the guard began, the ceremony as precise and formal as always. When it was over, William appeared beside her bench, now in regular clothes. "Teacher Wilson," he said with a smile. "Welcome back to London." Emma stood and gave him a proper hug. "Guard Thompson, still standing still for a living. I see." They laughed as they walked away from the palace. "Sarah has made a special cake for little Emma's first birthday," William said. "She's been talking about Auntie Emma coming to visit for weeks." "Auntie Emma, I like that." Emma smiled. "Oh, and Captain Harris asked about you. He's retired now, but he still follows the charity work." Emma linked her arm through William's as they walked. "You know, when I planned my trip to London last year, I never imagined I'd make such good friends here." And I never imagined breaking protocol would be the best thing that ever happened to me, William replied. As they reached the park, William stopped walking. I have some news. The palace has created a new position for me. I'll still be a guard sometimes, but I'll also be working with military charities. They're calling it community outreach. Emma's eyes widened. That's perfect for you. There's more, William said, looking nervous. There's a teacher exchange program between London and Ohio. I recommended your school for it. If they accept, they'd need a teacher from Ohio to come teach in London for a year. Emma's heart skipped a beat. Are you suggesting? I'm not suggesting anything, William smiled. I'm just saying that if a certain American teacher wanted to spend more time in London, there might be a way. Emma laughed. I'll think about it. But first, we have a first birthday party to attend. As they continued walking, a tourist took a photo of them. By evening, people online would be sharing the picture with captions like, "Remember them. The guard and the tourist are still friends." But Emma and William didn't care about being internet famous anymore. What had begun as a viral moment had become something much more valuable. A friendship built on shared values and genuine care for each other. And all because Emma had forgotten the rules and done the most human thing possible, reached out to someone in need.